Okay, so now we're in the third section of the IELTS reading passage. It's about Art Nouveau. I really hate reading things about art. I have no personal interest in art, so I find these, sometimes it's just the topic. You know, you go into the arts exam, you look at the topic, and you're just like, oh, this isn't going to be fun to read. But let's see, okay? So reading passage, the first type, we've got to match the paragraphs with the information in the statement. So we've got to read the sentences over here and then decide which paragraph the information comes from. And then we're filling in the missing parts of the sentence in this notes about the topic. And then we're looking at, we've got headings, and we're looking to find questions, okay? So when we get down to 30 to 40, we're picking out why other names were given to Art Nouveau. So question 38 says the name related to the general appearance of the style. Why was that? The different reason why it was given the name. Okay, so let's take a look. We've got question 28, which is the sort of more straightforward section. So we've got the key phrases. Art Nouveau was focused on taking down the traditional artistic system. Okay, so taking down could also mean, like, you know, destroy and finish. You know, it's quite aggressive. So you've got to scan through and try and find paraphrases to these to what they say in the question. So question 28 seems to be describing Art Nouveau's aim. So you could start by scanning paragraph A for the keywords and their synonyms. So then we find the sentence, the movement was committed to abolishing the traditional hierarchy of arts. Okay, so abolishing, taking down, traditional hierarchy of arts, traditional artistic system. Okay, so we know that this information is coming from paragraph A. Okay, and we've got 29, which is the movement came about from both a rebellion against tradition and a fascination with foreign designs. So then we go on scanning. So we've got key phrases that we're looking for. The movement came about, and a rebellion against tradition, and a fascination with foreign designs. So it's talking about how the movement came about or began. So we might be able to look in paragraph B or paragraph E to find the answer, because both of them are sort of talking about the history of it. So the advent of new arvo, literally new art, can be traced to two distinct influences. So the movement came about can be traced to the origins of it. The first was the introduction around 1880 of the British Arts and Crafts movement, which, much like decorative art, the second was the current word for Japanese art. So advent means beginning, or where something came about, traced to the origins of it. So we know that the answer to this one is going to be E. Okay, question 30 says nature and geometry were considered more pleasing to the eye than dynamic shades and hues. Okay, so here we're looking for nature, we're looking for geometry. And so it's a description of Art Nouveau. So we're thinking it's a description, so it's probably going to be back in paragraph A or B. So it's going to be one of the ones at the start. Artists drew inspiration from both organic and geometric forms involving elegant designs that united flowing, natural forms resembling the stems and blossoms of plants. Okay, so this is the sort of our key phrase here. So we know that it's because organic geometric forms means nature and geometry, and took precedence over indicates more pleasing to the eye than. So we know that the answer is coming from A. Okay, then we look at 31. The movement was known by many different names due to its broad and far-reaching success. So these are what we need to focus on, and so we're looking for lots of different names as well as a reference to far-reaching success, both of which suggest that we should be looking in paragraph G. Okay, so if you remember, you should have done a quick scan through at the start to try and find your key first sentences. So we know that G is kind of focusing on this section. And so in paragraph 2, you find the sentence, Art Nouveau's wide popularity throughout Western and Central Europe, which is here, Central Europe, meant that it went by several different titles. So we can say several different titles is a synonym for many different names. Okay, so we can guess that the answer to this one is coming from paragraph B. Then we go to question 32. The key phrases here are the first true Art Nouveau object. And the cover of a published volume. So paragraph F contains debate over the first work of art to be labeled Art Nouveau. So if we're going to look at paragraph F. So the sentence contains the keywords and synonyms, but most point to the origins in the decorative arts. And in particular to a book jacket by English architect and designer Arthur Haygrave MacMurdo, blah, 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 blah. So this is the sentence we need. So the answer to question 32 is F for this one. 33, the movement helped reduce the division between designing objects for use and creating objects of art. So this closely matches the description of movements aimed to connect art and craftsmanship that you might remember from paragraph C. The depiction of movement helped reduce the division between designing for use and creating objects of art. In the process, Art Nouveau helped narrow the gap between the fine and applied arts. Okay, so it reduces the division between practical objects and artistic objects. So this is the theme about it. Painting and sculpture were better than furniture and ironwork, and so it overturned that belief. Okay, so this is how we know that the answer is going to be C, paragraph C. Okay, then we move on to filling in the gaps in the summary. An important motivation behind Art Nouveau was its desire to escape from tradition, perhaps frustrated that industrialization had not benefited the quality of something. So we know that it's going to be so we're looking at industrialization is our key word in this sentence. Industrialization not benefited in quality are our key phrases. In addition to focusing on these keywords and phrases, we need to identify the part of the speech that will fill the gap. So in this case, the quality of has to be followed by a noun or noun phrase. And so if we scan paragraph C for the keywords and synonyms, we find the sentence, industrial production was at that point widespread, and yet the decorative arts were increasingly dominated by poorly made objects imitating earlier periods. So here, industrial production means the same as industrialization. And therefore, the answer is going to be decorative arts. Okay. Next, we're going to look at Art Nouveau followers wanted to improve the reputation of crafts and implement modernity and quality in the objects they created. This modernity was not to be found in the something. Okay, so we're looking for modernity, not to be found. Where couldn't they find modern things? So again, we know that this is going to be a noun or noun phrase in this section. So this is the first sentence of paragraph C. The academic system which dominated art education from the 17th to 19th century. So we should be looking at paragraph C, and where there was the sentence, Art Nouveau artists sought to overturn that belief. So in other words, they disagreed with the older academic system as it promoted an outdated rather than a modern view of art. Therefore, the answer is going to be academic system. Okay, then we go down to, therefore, proponents of the new art movement began to create interiors where all aspects of design work together in a clear and cohesive something. So we look at this one. So we know that because they say therefore, here. So we know that this is linking on for that. So it's probably going to still be in paragraph C, because we're linking the information that we've got together. Modernity wasn't found in the academic system. Therefore, proponents of the new art movement began to create interiors. The sentence, we have to find the sentence next one in paragraph C. Art Nouveau artists sought to overturn that belief, aspiring instead to total works of the arts. Okay, so we're going to talk about here in cohesive visual vocabulary. And then we move on to 37. Again, this provided a counterpoint to what they saw as the something. The definite article the refers to the plural noun decorations. The adjective pointless tells you that the missing word will also be an adjective, as this is an example of a parallel structure. Okay, so what we saw is the something or even pointless decorations of previous movements. So the next sentence, so we find the sentence, many Art Nouveau practitioners felt that earlier design had been excessively ornamental, and in wishing to avoid what they perceived as frivolous decoration. So it says, that means the answer is going to be excessively. Ornamental. Okay. So that's kind of like the most sort of difficult part of it. Usually when we get to this point of the test, a lot of students are sort of struggling for time. So I would take a quick scan at this one, and I would actually probably go to questions 38 to 40 first, and then go back to filling in those written ones, because they're sort of more challenging. So when we get to 38, so we're looking for the name related to the general appearance of the style. So when we look at the final sentence of the reading passage, its numerous detractors also give it several derogatory names: style nouveau, noodle style, or eel style, tapeworm style, all names which make playful reference to Art Nouveau's tendency to enjoy sinuous and flowing lines. So what was the name that was related to the general appearance of the style? So here, sinuous and flowing lines indicates descriptions of the appearance of the style. Okay, it's about the lines of it, the flowing lines that make it look like noodles. So therefore, we're going to have the answer of who gave it this name: critics of the style. Okay, numerous detractors. Detractor also means critic. Okay, critic also means detractors. If you're a detractor, you're a critic. Now we're looking for the name which was taken from a local artistic movement. So we need to look for the key phrase, meanwhile in Vienna, home to Gustav Klimt. This is part of the Vienna secession. It was known as Mosaic. So Vienna secession, so it was a small local movement in Vienna, local to one city, so that we know that the answer is going to be a Vienna. And then now we're looking for the name referred to Art Nouveau's movement away from tradition. So we're looking for synonyms of, or antonyms of this. So we can see it was also known as modernism in Spanish and Catalan, which is modern style. Okay, so it's away from tradition, it's becoming modern, and it gives talks about where it came from in Spain, so we know that that's going to be Spain. Okay, so again, that was quite a tricky reading passage. But by reading carefully through, by looking at the first sentences of each paragraph, getting a feel for the topic of each paragraph, making some notes very quickly at the start, just a quick scan through, can help you create like sort of mental mind map of where the information is in the text passage.